What I want to talk today about is truth. There is an essay by a man named Francis Bacon that opens, "What is truth?" joked Pontius Pilate, and did not wait for an answer. If you're in HR, I would like to think that every inquiry starts with the question, what is the truth? Who am I hiring? Who should I promote? If we have acquired a new company, what is the degree of loyalty and motivation of that new workforce? If I had union negotiations, yes, there are the financial issues, but what are the emotional stumbling blocks that might make the negotiations more difficult? Those are all inquiries that involve the truth, and they involve emotions, and it'd be wonderful to imagine, see if this works. Oh. Okay.
Pointing to the left.
To
This left.
Oh, okay. To the left. Okay. So it would be wonderful in all of these issues to imagine that words alone would suffice. But if you've never been lied to in life, congratulations. You are either extremely lucky or you are not paying attention. People are slippery. Words are slippery. We spin, we deflect, we hint and hold back. The truth is that we are not truth tellers. Human beings want to feel good about themselves, and they want to attract allies, whether at work or in their private life, romantic partners, etc. So you need some other place to go. We are always defending ourselves. Some years ago, I was lucky to go on a non-hunting safari in Botswana. So I said to my guide, you know, the landscape is all brown with a little bit of green, so I don't understand zebras at all. Obviously, giraffes have tall necks, they can see over the horizon. Hippopotamuses are big and they've got horns. They can defend themselves. What about zebras? They're black and white in a brown landscape. That doesn't seem very smart. And the African guide said to me, no, Dan, you don't understand. When they are chased by a lion, they stay together. And when they stay together, the lion can't distinguish one zebra from another, and they can't figure out which one's hindquarters to jump on to attack. So zebras have a defense, just like human beings have a defense. But I don't want you to think that I'm going to be talking about facial expressions of zebras for the next hour. I will actually be talking about human beings. And I want to give you one example about human beings and emotions, and particularly about the slipperiness of words by playing a little favorite radio spot of mine.
I shall love the Buckingham Fish Palace. I've spent years mastering the nuances of preparing seafood. I've spent months mastering the nuances of preparing seafood. I took some night classes, all right? I've always found preparing fish to be quite simple, quite tricky. It's bloody impossible. I use the same quality of fish you'd find at legal seafoods. All right, I use the kind of fish you'd find in the frozen food section. Then I grill it to perfection. Then I grill it. Fine, I pop in the microwave to perfection. Whatever, I am still master chef of a 5-star restaurant. 4-star, 3, 2, it's not that bad. It could be worse. Blimey, that's horrifying.
When it comes to fish, there's only one place you can trust. Legal seafoods. If it isn't fresh, it isn't legal.
So, speaking of truth, I believe that in business there are two currencies. And yes, one of them is money, but the other one is emotions. And just as in regard to money, we want to keep track of our receipts, our revenue, we want to keep track of our expenses, I believe you could and should, and in fact you can, keep track of emotions. Now you can't simply do that by asking people. I've just played for you the radio commercial. Words are slippery. Your boss says to you, am I a good leader? You say, yes, you're a wonderful leader. You get the promotion, you get the bonus. You cannot count on the words alone to tell you what is going on. One of the lies about emotions is that they're noisy, they're messy, you can't understand them. They have no system to them, but they do. If you are an artist, you have a color wheel. If you are a psychologist, you can use an emotion wheel. So some things are pretty obvious. Joy is the strongest form of happiness. The opposite is sadness. Maybe a little bit more complicated, anger and fear are opposites. With anger, I approach, I want to make progress. I will hit, I will break through barriers. If I am afraid, I will freeze. One of the problems with fear is it's hard to communicate. You don't say what's really going on for you, and you don't hear very well what someone else is saying to you because you are frightened. Even more intriguing, I think, we often say that trust is the emotion of business. Well, emotionally, what's the opposite of that? Disgust and contempt. I don't trust you, I don't respect you, I back off from you. So all of these different emotions have signals. They can be caused, triggered by things. You can try to work and understand your emotions. They are not something that's lockstep. But it is true we have emotions, they change us physically. They often drive outcomes for you as leaders, as HR directors, and for the employees involved. That absolutely happens. So I was intrigued and said there really needs to be some way to get after emotions better than just asking people how they feel. So I'm often lucky in life, including coming here to speak in Romania. And I'm the person who brought facial coding out of academia and into business. And I'm going to say a little bit about it, and then we'll get into some results from my studies. The first person who took emotions seriously was actually studying zebras and a lot of other animals and human beings, and that was Charles Darwin. And Darwin came to realize that in your face, you best reflect and communicate your emotions. Now, first of all, this is universal. Even a person born blind emotes the same way as you or I, even if they're born blind. So this is hardwired into the brain. I also know it's universal because I've done research in more than 30 countries. I've spoken in more than 25 countries. I've traveled in over 65 countries in my lifetime. So I have seen its universality. The second thing is it's spontaneous. A lot of times people filter what they say. You get into an employee situation and, will the truth come out? Well, the face is the only place in the body where the muscles attach right to the skin. It is quick, real-time, unfiltered data. It can tell you what is going on. And the third thing is it's abundant. Human beings have more facial muscles than any other species on the planet, zebras or otherwise. And here in Romania, of course, emotions are quite abundant. I am thinking of Elena Stasi. I am thinking of Simona Halep, so on and so forth. I also lived in Italy as a boy for 2 years. Italians have a lot of emotions. And if they make this gesture while driving, it does not mean I love you. Something quite different. So Charles Darwin was not available for a conversation when I started my company in 1998. Fortunately for me, a man named Paul Ekman, the inspiration for the show Lie to Me, which I believe was referenced in the introduction, took more than 20 years to systematically figure out which muscle movements correspond to which emotions. It's called the facial action coding system. And in 1998, spurred by an article in a Ivy League publication, which said how much we are not just emotional decision makers, but how much we respond intuitively. In fact, the conservative estimation is that 95% of our mental activity is not fully conscious. 95%. So we are not supremely rational decision makers. We barely understand what's going on for ourselves, let alone other people on the planet. So I started the company in '98. I've been fortunate enough to do work for more than half of the world's top 100 companies, sometimes in advertising, sometimes in products, sometimes in retail settings, services. and also involving personnel and HR issues. So facial coding is starting to get quite well known. When I began with it, it was just in academia, mostly used in psychology counseling. The show Live and Me, Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, the movie from Pixar, Inside Out, all of this made it certainly more famous. But I am here today to tell you that facial coding and its predecessor, facial recognition, is going to be one of the most significant things that happens on the planet within the next 10 years. Absolutely, hands down. It ties into artificial intelligence. It ties into the fact that they are automating facial coding. Sometimes this is for good. When I wanted to use facial coding in business, my goal was to have us understand the employees better, understand the customers better, understand whether the TV commercial was good or a piece of junk. I had good motives, believe me, in how I wanted to use the tool. I wanted to have a heart about it. But I have to be honest, there are lots of other applications. Within the last 2 months, I read a book called Surveillance Capitalism. And it is about what Facebook and Google and other American companies and other companies in the world are using and doing with this. For instance, there will soon be smart TVs in a way that you never imagined. The smart TV will watch you watching TV. And it will know your facial expressions. You didn't like that TV commercial? The next commercial break, they will play a different commercial for you because you didn't like that one, and see if you might like this one. They are going to be customizing the advertising for you on a mass scale. Militarily, at West Point, our military academy, they already use facial coding 24/7, around the clock, to track the emotions of all of the people who are future military leaders, to understand whether they are going to be the right stuff to be a leader. So that's already a little worrisome, perhaps. That is nothing compared to China. China has 200 million cameras operating already. There are 1 million Muslims in Western China who are in detention. And they are using facial coding during the propaganda sessions to understand whether or not those people are accepting the indoctrination. And if they are not, they are giving them extra teaching, shall we say. So there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot at stake here. The automation is not yet as good as it needs to be or could be. I have a former staffer who is now at Facebook helping with the automation. So I have a pretty good sense of where they're at, and a good human coder is still better than the machine, but not for much longer. And this is going to be everywhere in our society. So this might be the first time you're hearing about it, but I suggest in 5 years you might want to think back to this presentation, because you will hear a lot more about it.